All right, we don't even have anything to give you guys as far as backgrounds and stuff for the video. We don't have a lot prepared. This is brand new. We wanted to do something that was interesting, unique, and isn't done all the time. This might be our first and last episode, depending on how it goes with you guys in the background with your comments. So we're going to try to talk like adults about topics that are more for an adult audience. The Underground. This is going to be the home of fetish, monsters, and more, brought to us by Written Sins Comics. It's going to take place on Indie Volt, and Geek Insider and Comic Book Advocates are all going to be supporting and promoting this. Hopefully we don't get anyone too mad at us for how we cover things. I think that we got some great guests that we can line up. I have a great guest today I'm excited to bring into you guys. But before we do that, we have to run the warnings. Please take this seriously. This is why you can't send us hate. This right here. Warning and disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this live feed are those of the guests, speakers, and or hosts, and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs, official policies, ethics, or positions of the content providers, advertisers, additional hosts, and or guests, hosting sites, groups, or entities attached to this programming. Viewer discretion is advised. All right, so we're going to have many guests in here. We're going to have, hopefully, this will be the first Friday of every month. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about things that people call freaky. And for me, I don't mind being called a freak. But for those who don't know, in the cheap seats, freaky is often meant as a term of, basically abuse. It is a way to call people out who don't live in the middle lane, or at least pretend to live in the middle. Think of being homosexual back in the 80s, and that's what the freaky pretty much means. It's a derogatory term that we've retaken, and we create what we create because we believe in what we're creating, and sometimes we're part of a community, and sometimes we're just talking about it respectfully. Underground comics have a strong history of breaking the barriers down. We have to be mindful of what we're going to be sharing. We have Daphne on today.
Hey.
She's definitely going to put some boundaries tonight, but we're going to do so in a respectful fashion. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Daphne Lage. I'm an artist, and I am in general the artist of the funny animal fantasy comic Tall Tales, written by J.D. Calderon, and you can find my work at talltalesonline.com and my YouTube channel at Daphne Lage Art. But today we're going to be talking about Kickstarter that I'm running that is a little different from both of these things that I'm talking about right now.
Let's get right into it. Talk to me. What is this?
Well, this is House of Bob Volume 1. It's a 24-page sketchbook featuring uncensored furry erotica. From my defunct Patreon page of the same name. I used to have a Patreon that was just a place for me to put this type of artwork that I still do, actually. It's just that it was just a hassle to run two Patreons for me. So I decided instead that I think that this would work better as sketchbooks on Kickstarter. And this is the first uncensored volume of it. The sketchbook is for viewers 18 and up. It's an adults only book, and it contains nudes and fetish themes of the furry variety. That's if you consider furry its own fetish, but that's another discussion. But mostly it's like the fetishes that I like putting in this artwork is more like a rubber fetish and leather fetish, heels, some feet sometimes, but it's all with that furry overlay.
All right, so I guess the first question I have to ask is, and if you hear a bird in the background,
yes.
that's a
me.
bird.
Yes.
And if you heard a crazy 5-year-old, that's just my son running around the background.
So we have a lot going on today.
And well, furry. How much of let me ask you this right out of the gate. How did you fall into this? How did this become a thing? Because I know a lot of people don't even know what furry is, and please Just describe what furry is, especially for those
Well,
listening.
the general term for furry is furry is attached to the fandom, which is just people appreciating artwork in just media in general that features anthropomorphized animals. The thing is, though, is that furry does kind of lean more towards more mature, not necessarily adult, but in the end, it does get to that. Uh, but how I got into it was I was doing my comic Tall Tales back in the late '80s, and I started finding fanzines, which were Xeroxed art, like art collections and stories and whatnot that were sent through the mail. So it was very old school. So I got into a couple of those, and through that, I started learning about the fandom, uh, mostly by going to specific conventions that related to this, and then I started finding like online spaces, message boards, and getting like really involved with that. Um, but it's like it was mostly because of my comic Tall Tales that I found furry. Uh, the the adult stuff came, I don't want to say like soon into it, but it's just a completely different vibe than what you get like from like Disney cartoons and television cartoons. So it just, I guess it was just like a natural progression, that it was just like, well, these are adults who are, into doing a little bit more with the anthropomorphic as a medium. So I guess it's like I was able to take my artwork in different places, because it's like, why not?
I'm here.
Okay.
Uh, I'm listening. I'm in the
Mhm.
background answering some
Right.
questions, just getting
Sure.
ready. Uh, Making sure we can be
Right.
shared out. This is the link for the
Mhm.
Kickstarter in here. Uh, I am, of course, from the fetish community myself, so I've known. I didn't realize, to be honest with you, how far back the furries actually
Yeah.
went. For those who don't know, people actually now dress up as these characters and assume the identity. It's called pet play. It's called there's another term for it, and it's evading me right now. But the basic idea is that you become that animal and you play out
Right.
like in a role playing way. Some people swear that they are now part that animal, and not my kink means
Right.
it's not what I'm into, but I'll
Right.
respect the person and what they do. This is definitely weird for some people. I wouldn't call it weird for me. I just don't understand it sometimes
Right. Mhm.
necessarily like everyone else would. But I mean, then again, look at some of the times we love the Hulk is green. I mean, She Hulk is green.
Right.
Everyone gets excited. Like, I mean, Rescue Rangers. I know
Right.
kids
Oh, yeah.
had a crush on one of the female the mouse over there.
Right. Yeah, I think well, if we want to talk animated crushes, I mean, it's like Robin Hood got me into drawing the art that I do, but it was Justin from The Secret of Nim that showed me, it's like, oh, I can actually kind of like these characters too. So
Yeah,
so it's like, I think a lot of people, they have certain characters that they've imprinted on, even though they don't necessarily like define themselves as furries. It's just like, I think like during quarantine there was this whole conversation about people admitting that their first childhood crush was Simba. So um so it's like that. I guess it's just something that happens. Now fandom is a completely different thing. I mean, you can have these thoughts about you know these characters without being involved in fandom, but fandom makes it easier to like access this type of artwork, or at least it did at the time because a lot of fanzines and message boards were sometimes the only places you could get this type of like independently produced um, uh, furry art. Now the thing is, I just wanted to put a disclaimer that it's like ever since I was involved in the fandom back in the 80s, there's still a lot of conversation as to like the word furry being associated with this type of work. But at the same time, it's like this type of work is so prevalent in the fandom that even like going to like conventions where you don't expect people to know what furry is, they kind of do know what furry is. They have an idea that it's like, well, it's more mature stuff, it's more adult stuff. So that's why I started using the term funny animal to describe my comic book work at, you know, when I do tall tales, but furry when I'm describing this stuff. So there's going to be some people a little uptight about that, but I think like for brevity's sake, that's the definition that I'm using, that furry is more adult, mature audience stuff. And then like funny animal is more like the general audience's stuff. If that makes any sense.
I've always known as furry as the what you're talking about, the adult stuff, you know, like this is geared towards that. It's sexualizing, like you said, anamorphic, renderings of animals, because of course they're not biologically correct.
Right. Yeah. They're people with animal heads, pretty much.
You know, like Chip and Dale, like it would look a little different. So to speak.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They would.
So this is not, you're basically just like Daphne just said. You're putting a head on a raccoon, and you're making a human than raccoon. But
yeah, exactly.
And the fur is an interesting touch because if you think about it, we put tattoos on ourselves, we wear fur jackets. So it's really a layer. Now, the one thing I will say is that you have to get some people who I say this as someone from the fetish community with BDSM. We get a lot of things thrown at us.
Right.
Do you ever have people throw the bestiality thing?
Yes, I have. I actually, and this was before I even knew what fandom was and started doing this type of artwork. This was when I was like just doing like Disney type stuff. And I would have people accuse me of that because they didn't, it's like they were like, well, what's this for? And it's like, what do you mean what's it for? Haven't you seen a Disney movie? You know? But yeah, that's part of I guess it's kind of part and parcel with doing artwork like this, is that people read more into it than it really is, than there really is. I mean, it's like, one, these are cartoon characters, you know, and two, it's like they're not animals drawn like animals. I mean, they're obviously people. I mean, it's like, you know, it's kind of like how in anime you have cat girls, you know, but this one just puts the fur on it.
Well, I'll go one further. What about Star Trek for the decades? We're going on almost 100 years. Star Trek now, going to different alien planets and having someone from the crew mate with them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's I mean, yeah. And I think in the Star Trek animated series, there was a lion lady in there. There was like a lioness lady. So it's.
What about the blue paint? Like you can't go to a convention without a girl in blue or green paint.
Right. Exactly. It's I guess it's like the alienness of it, but still have the familiar. You know,
to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to sleep with someone furrier than me. but I see a blue girl and I'm like,
right, yeah. I mean, but the whole thing is not to. I mean, but like any fantasy, sometimes it's like you don't. The idea is not to really overanalyze. Sometimes, you know, I mean, it's like you think about, you know, the fur and the tails, and it's like it's really impractical. you know, I mean, the clothing itself is just as fantastical as the character I'm putting them on, because it's like they're not actually functioning. It's
No, I can. As someone from
right.
the community, I can tell you most of what you see a girl wearing, the
Yeah.
goal is to get it off as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah. And there
In
is
the way.
you don't do that, you know, with this, you know. So it's like, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like it's like an aesthetic rather than like based on any type of reality. And I think like the problem is when people confuse the two. You know, going back to the bestiality accusation, it's like, well, I'm drawing this, but it doesn't have any relation to the other thing. You know, it's this is just fan- fantastical images. It's not supposed to be based in reality. But I don't know. I guess like some people really do have a problem separating that.
You know what? And it kills me as a guy who writes a fetish book, and you have all these people out there who are like, well, you can't do that stuff, and you're not allowed to do this stuff. But then these same people are usually the people on their pages who are buying the big boobed girl that's in an unrealistic pose
Right. Yeah.
that no one would wear it to fight crime. Now I go to clubs where they wear it. So I do think that there's a little bit, and I say this, I think it's much more in America. America has trouble with fantasy.
Right. Yeah.
No one wants to see their, especially in the home computer. Don't look at my viewer history.
Uh-huh.
Don't look at my cookies and my bookmarks. Please do anything else, but don't look there, because you know we all look to what we're doing. I mean, I made some BDSM survey where couples actually are forced to talk about what they're into. So, you know, we're used to hiding it, but when you start, this is what this show is going to do. We're going to kind of look into the dark side of the moon, as it was.
Right.
Talk about these interesting things, these underground things. Let me tell you, this is a lot more popular than you realize. It's becoming a lot, because I can't bring a girlfriend into a convention where there are going to be kids dressed as any of these furries. Because I'll get looks and I'll get yelled at, and maybe.
However, I mean, you see some of the costumes that a lot of superheroes are wearing, and they're not that much different than a lot of these costumes.
Yeah,
but that's a superhero, so that's different.
But on top of it too, they can dress up as a furry.
Yeah.
Walk around without a problem.
Oh.
It's a lot more commonplace to be a furry than you'd even realize.
Right.
People think it's cool as hell. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, I'm gonna say something that's gonna make people blush.
Okay.
There are parties where people get dressed up and they do dirtier things that it makes me bashful.
Well,
it makes me bashful. Like, it's not just the sofa that gets sticky, it's the outfits too. I'm just saying, the next time you let your kid go near someone in a furry outfit, maybe not have the kids touch the furry outfit.
Well, fortunately, those costumes cost way too much money for people to neglect them. so you know, I'm pretty sure, you know, a lot of fursuit. Well, they're called fursuiters, and they take a lot of pride and care of their costumes. So I wouldn't be that concerned. I mean, to tell you the truth, it's like I think they probably take care of their costumes more than the Disney parks does. So, you know, so I wouldn't be that concerned with that. But the thing is, though, you know, everything. I guess to probably say something a little controversial, everything that you've heard about furry is true. The good, the bad, the ugly, and yes, and those types of parties do happen. Yes, I've seen photos. You know, but that's the thing, though. So it's like you have people who dress up just in regular fursuits. That's, you know, that's fine. Then you have the models that dress up as latex covered superheroines, and that's fine. But then it just, when you mix them together, that's when it starts to get weird for people.
Sorry about that. My unmute wouldn't unmute.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, why aren't you unmuting? I had that earlier problem. I think StreamYard is doing an update. Yeah. So One thing I do want to ask you is that
Mhm.
when you're at a show and you put this up, what is the typical response you get?
Well, okay, so wow, the last time I had this type of artwork on a table was at a furry convention, but it was like more than like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Actually, no, it's more than that. I think my last furry convention was back in 1999, I think. Um, and even back then, having this stuff on the table was uh, kind of weird. Even at a furry convention where this type of artwork was rather like like the norm, because even back then, there was a contingent of people who wanted to ban this type of artwork from conventions, from the fandom in general, because they felt that this type of artwork gave the fandom a bad name. So so it's like so it was always kind of like, well, what if children, see this? And it's like, well, one, furry conventions were rather, everyone made a point to cover everything up. So it's not like you had everything out in the open. Like, I remember back around the same time when anime started really becoming a thing. Um, Early on, it's like there would be like anime conventions where dealers would show hentai out in the open. It's like they would be showing video of like Legend of the Overfiend in the monitor behind them at a convention open during a convention. So so it's just like, at least we knew better than to do that. It's in general. Um so that so but even then, at conventions now, I can't have this stuff on the table. So that's why Kickstarter is good for me, because it's like it allows me to be able to put this stuff out without having to worry about um people who are not really meant for this thing kind of seeing it. Because it's like it's really funny, because it's like, even if I had this sketchbook on the table in a bag, like you had to show ID to see it and all that, it seems to taint everything on the table. So I could have the entire table just full of my just regular Tall Tales books, but if I have this one sketchbook in the corner, all of a sudden everybody thinks everything on the table is like that. So and that became a problem. That so it's like I had to like remove that. Like, I had to make a choice as to like, well, this is my artwork, but this is artwork that can't be out in the open, which is kind of um a little frustrating, because like I said, I take a lot of care in making sure that it's separate from everything. But I mean, people are going to think what they're going to think, you know. So so it's like, to tell you the truth, it's like and sometimes it surprises me how a lot really hasn't changed in 20 years.
Well, as someone who doesn't really care as much and fights the curve on it, because
Right.
I like you said, look at the superheroes.
Yeah.
First off, the biggest insult to me is when someone who's into anime or dressed up as an anime character
Yeah.
comes to my table and gives me a dirty look, and I'm like,
oh yeah, I've had that happen too. It's like, I was at an anime convention, and mind you, I didn't have any adult stuff on the table. It was just, just my comics. And this girl dressed up in full, she was dressed up as a cat girl in full like fetish gear. Like, I mean, it's like freaking like a bondage cat girl. And she looks at me dead in my face and she goes, "Oh, I hate furries." And I'm like going, "Honey, really?"
my favorite for me is the Wonder Woman story. There's always some girl who just saw the Wonder Woman movie and then
Right.
wearing Wonder Woman because she's like, "Women rock. We're so powerful." And I'm not mocking that.
Right.
The person, because they don't understand the complexity of the
Yeah.
character of Wonder Woman.
It's true, yeah.
How powerful the story was, and exactly why she has gauntlets. What happened
Right.
to that lasso a lot of times, and the different dynamics that went into the creation of the character.
Right.
So I'll have them, and when they say something nasty, because I've had a couple walk up to me like Wonder Woman, like feeling it, like they're dressed up as Wonder Woman, coming up to me, Juno, I can't believe that they allowed you in here, and I'm like, why is that? Oh, this all the women tied up, and I'm like, I look at who they're with because they're always with some dude, and the dude already knows. The dude is already like, oh, just gonna. Either the dude's like trying to wave her off. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Then I get to explain. Oh, honey, let me tell you who Wonder Woman really was, and I go into the Marston story about how he was living a polyamory lifestyle. And he was definitely ahead of his time. Still might be ahead of our time. Date. And you see them just crumple away, and they go, "That's not who this character is." I'm like, "Yes, it is."
You know, so that's the origin. Maybe that's not something that DC wants to really have out there, but that's the origin.
It's just them. They didn't put it. They saw this girl. They want to have their boobs out because every one of them has their boobs popping.
Right? Yeah. Of course.
So they're pouring over, and they want to talk to me about over sexualization.
Yeah. That's
that's a fellow artist who was like, "Oh, I guess your fetish books aren't selling well." And she comes in the next day, and her boobs are popping out, and she's trying to get attention that way.
Right.
And meanwhile, we were doing fine sales without much to do about it, and we had probably outsold her the whole weekend. But she tried so hard, and she was doing fan art, and I'm like, see, whatever you want, but I mean, And I said to her, I was like, "Oh, my books are selling well." I was like, I just feel bad for you that you can't sell original art without having to use Marvel and DC characters.
Well, that's a whole controversial conversation.
Let me tell you, I didn't hear another knock from her at all because I'm quick-witted, and you're gonna pay if you try to upset me. You just get it right back.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll do some comments now. JD said Kirk was a dog.
Oh, well, but a different kind of dog, though.
To be clear, he actually means Kirk had a lot of partners.
Yes.
Apparently they've cured
You see, I'm still thinking literally.
they cured STDs in the future in Kirk's time. That's the only explanation for Kirk. Meredith said the first time I saw the image, I was like, "Oh, cool, interesting." And then I was like, "Ooh. Is anyone else looking at me at it?" But Meredith, take a shower. Take a cold one. Rogue Artistry says, "I love this show."
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Gary Henderson says, "Great art."
Thank you.
Meredith back again. Then I think about all the aliens in sexy costumes. Hello, Star Wars. And I got over it. Exactly. And that's what always just blows my mind. How you could have these girls wearing skimpy outfits throwing me dirty looks.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
People who are upset that I have a sign that says free spanks and hugs. And I'm like, why? Why would you be upset? The children are around.
It's
terrified of you.
They like to drag the children around a lot.
It's an easy excuse. But you have to understand, most kids who can read my sign are like, I don't want to fuck with him.
Right.
Like, he gives spanks. Like, because most kids think a spank is like, oh shit, I'm in trouble.
Right.
You know? And I've had like, the women come up to me who think it's hysterical with their kid. And it's never been a dad. I'll tell you right now, dad has never done this. But I've had mothers come up to me and go, "Oh, if you keep misbehaving, he's going to spank you." And I'm like, "No, I won't. Your mom, not you."
It's not the same thing.
You look on the mom's face, and the mom stop. And I'm like, that's how I got the devil moniker, to be honest with you. But again, it comes back to this whole circle that we're talking about. The fact that we're so uncomfortable with talking about sexuality that people can't even do an adult conversation. Yet you go back to Looney Tunes, and they were able to express sexuality freely. They were able to talk about it in a way that the children never knew what was going on.
Right, yeah.
And we've gotten to that point where I don't know if we've gotten stupider as a culture, or if we've just forgotten that we don't have to give access to everything to our children. We don't want something. Then watch what your kids are watching. I watch my son on his YouTube, and I yell at him. Those are bad boy videos. I hear cursing. He gets in trouble, and you do. actively have to monitor what your children are watching. Just because it's a cartoon doesn't make it good.
Oh, right, yeah, or make it for children.
Yeah,
Actually, I
my
mean,
ex let my son watch Rick and Morty when he was 3, and we got into a fight about it. And she said, "Oh, just stop! It's just a cartoon. Leave it alone." And I was like,
and then
"You're a
but if you showed would it have been the same reaction if she showed him heavy metal at 3? I
wouldn't
mean,
have known. She probably, because she
right,
was one of those people who saw a cartoon and didn't think anything.
right.
She doesn't
I,
understand it. Because again, you're letting your kid watch Harley Quinn on HBO Max now. You're an idiot because a kid shouldn't be watching that. Just because
right, yeah.
on art, it doesn't. And you go to the anime stuff. Oh my god.
Yeah, it gets even crazier when you get into anime.
Some of the
But it's like, yeah, but that's I mean, it's like, yeah, that's how like multi-layered this conversation is, because it's like, you have the whole thing about, oh, cartoons are for kids. So that's already the first barrier, right? And then it's like you show any type of anything that isn't like chaste, I guess. Then that's another barrier. I mean, what's funny is that it reminds me the whole thing about the children um is like there's this whole, well, I mean, it's like it's the internet, so we all expect weird things to happen, but there is like this really weird um I don't know, this weird puritanical wave that I've been seeing in a lot of fandoms, where you have a lot of like young people. I was told that they figure that they were between like 15 and 22 or something. And they're like obsessed with cleaning the fandom and trying to get rid of all these anybody doing erotic art, and and it's but we don't allow you, it's like all our stuff is usually behind paywalls, or they're usually behind archives that you have to confirm that you're an adult to be on. And but yet they say, oh, but no, children can still get at it. It's like, well, if nobody's taking care, if nobody's supervising what the kids are doing, I guess. But in the end, I mean, because that was something that was thrown at me with the whole furry art. Oh, well, let's not beat around the bush. The whole furry porn thing. It was like, oh, because it's like, oh, children might see it, and it's like, well, only if you don't watch your kids. Like I'm doing my due diligence to make sure that my artwork is going to the audience it's meant to go to. My comic book work is a completely different audience from my furry porn. So, so it's like, if your kid is accessing my furry porn, it's not because of me.
Well, I think it's deeper than that. I mean, to what you're talking about, of course, we're supposed to protect our children.
Yeah.
I write a book that my son is not exposed to. Mm-hmm. That Free Hugs and Spanks son, he's not going to he's not going to make heads or tails of that. You know what I mean? He doesn't understand it. And sexualized art, he's not allowed to look at. I have conversations and I know how to speak adult without giving it away. I don't have to mention, over sexualized moments or anything like that. Like some people actually have to. But to your point about trying to clean fandom, I'll tell a story and this explains it all. I dated a girl when I was younger, and we were both underage when we were dating. And as we got older, we knew each other, and we had dated. And she was one of those girls you couldn't even watch a movie with nudity in it because I was dating her. She'd be mad. Oh my god, I can't. Okay. No, you can't. You have to get rid of the movie. She made me throw out VHS tapes because this is how old I am. That had a nude scene in it because it affected her body image. Fast forward her to being 20, 21, she gets a tattoo with a naked girl. People, and I think that has to come back with, especially for women. It's their image. They're raised in a weird way. There's a lot of pressure on women.
Right.
Teenage girls, a lot of them go through some stuff. And on top of that, the way parents treat sex. Oh, you know, sex is awful. Sex is this horrible thing.
Yes, sex is disgusting. Save it for the person you love.
You can only do it with someone that you really care about.
Right, yeah.
Horrible things with someone you care about. And it's confusing. You're going to get pregnant. You're going to get a disease. And we're so much about prevention from having sex instead of educating someone about what sex is, how it should be done maturely.
Right,
There's
yeah.
so many guys out there sending dick pics. It's because they don't know how to handle their sexuality.
Yeah.
We don't have those honest conversations. That's
Right.
what they should be teaching teenagers right now. One, you take a picture, it gets on the internet, it'll never go away. You're going to
Oh,
be
right. Yeah, definitely.
two, no one wants to see a penis unless they
Yeah.
ask for it.
Right, exactly.
If you for a penis picture, then you can take one if you're
Yeah.
over the age. If you're not over the age, don't do it, you idiot.
Right, yeah.
Don't take pictures of your girlfriend and send it to your friends at school. You're going to get arrested and ruin the rest of your life.
Right, yeah, exactly. And depending on the state, you know, you're going to be branded. You're going to be legally branded as a sex offender.
Yeah, so you have to be
Yeah.
mindful of those things. We have to
Yeah.
educate our children, especially in this age. You're never going to stop kids from finding things, especially when
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately, this is the truth. Puberty comes with urges.
Well, yeah, that's, you know, that's what it is.
To sign up
Right.
online and lie about their age.
Hmm.
You know, like that's just it. That's the reality.
Right.
As a parent, I have to understand that one day my son is going to try to fake his age to get away with shit.
Ha.
Just the reality.
Mm.
You know, and we all have to deal with that as parents. What I can do is I can raise him to be an intelligent young man and handle
Mhm.
things in an appropriate way where he won't hurt someone or hurt
Right.
himself. That's all we really can do. The rest you're not going to be able to control. But then you get these confused girls. I mean, this really throws me, and it's a big fight within my own circles. I'll put it that way. Cheerleaders. We have
Oh.
little girls out there cheerleading and shaking their ass, and
Right.
I'm the guy who wrote the fetish book, remember? And I'm like, does no one else see this being a problem? She's 7, shaking her butt. Why are
Well, that the whole
your old
beauty, preteen beauty pageants and all that
Right?
weirdness,
All
right?
that
Yeah.
stuff no one's going to talk about. But when I
Yeah.
have an adult book, that's somehow corrupting the youth.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really, it's really weird. Like there, I remember there was there was one year where a group tried to get the furry convention that I was going at the time banned from the hotel. And the big thing that they told was like, oh, it's like, you know, we sell nothing but pornography and you can't have pornography in the building. And I guess like the hotel managers, they went to the convention managers and said, it's like, no, this you can't have pornography at the convention if you want to hold your convention here. Well, what was funny was that somebody went into the newsstand that was in the hotel and bought several porno magazines from that hotel's own newsstand. And they had the whole thing rescinded. Well, it's like, how can you tell us to not, you know, like how to run our convention with this, you know, no porn ban when you're selling actual porno magazines in your own newsstand in this in your own hotel. So yeah, it's like there's this cognitive dissonance that sometimes happens because it's like people get freaked out over a certain thing and then all of a sudden it's like they stop thinking. They just start, you know, reacting to it as opposed to like, you know, this is not for you. Like you're not the audience for this. Because what's funny was that I caught a little bit of the the show you originally Backer Pause that you had. I guess you had like a little split second of the of my Kickstarter up there. And I was like going, oh no, don't show the furry porn to the preacher because you had Luke on. It's like, don't show the furry porn to the preacher.
I would even like it more. I wish we'd done it, to be honest with you. Because again, just like the hotel, I would be like,
Right.
dude, you're a fucking hotel.
Yeah.
What do you think people are doing upstairs in the middle of the night?
Right. Yeah.
They're not wrestling on the bed, buddy. That's
Right.
not wrestling on the bed. They're doing dirty things.
Right.
You know how much porn is filmed in hotels?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness. You would not imagine how much
Right.
stuff's actually in a hotel room.
Yeah.
You crazy people. And look, you don't have to like porn like Daphne's saying. Avert your eyes, go somewhere else. You
Right.
don't
Yeah.
get offended. Everyone wants to be offended, and it kills me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I cannot believe you have a picture of a tied up girl. But I could pull up 100 movie posters where there's
Yeah.
a female on it. James,
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
done it. Plenty of things. How many times have we seen a movie poster where nipples are?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Really. You know,
But
it's
now,
almost cliche.
what it comes down to is when someone doesn't like something. And I made the
Right.
metaphor, and I'll make it again. Like being gay in the 80s. When you were gay in the 80s, it was open season. We've now learned we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't judge who someone is.
Yeah.
And we're getting better and better with that. But it's these outside areas that are having problems reaching.
Right. Yeah.
Just be respected that it's not what it is. Especially when BDSM is actually taught by therapists to teach married couples to get better. It boggles my mind. And people are like, well, this is just a gateway to pedophilia.
Oh, that's a whole other, that's a whole other accusation that's getting bounced around too.
Yeah,
that
no, they're everyone who I know from the fetish community is against that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Wants that. And we're struggling even as a nation with again, it's become a hot topic issue. How old should someone be able to, how old is someone, to make consent? Like how old do you have to be to understand sexual consent? And should there be a law over dating a 20-year-old, dating a 40-year-old? All these things come up, but these are all social agendas that change over time. They don't really stay over the history of humanity. And a lot of this stuff is brand new. It's the first time ever we're creating laws in the long existence of human beings about these things. So we're getting to the point where we don't understand really a lot about it. We just know we have to try to find what works. So I think that there's a growing struggle with that. And I do think a little bit, I'll admit this, during times of peace, a lot more of this stuff comes up, but during war, you never hear this. So this is obviously us just paying attention a little bit more than we normally would have the energy or the ability to pay attention to something. Like but again,
I mean, because also, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, how is this hurting anyone? That's always my thing. How is this going to hurt anyone not involved in it? And sometimes maybe someone wants to get hurt a little bit, just people kickbox each other and each other. Sometimes that stuff can be exciting, but ultimately your book's not going to hurt anyone unless they choose to be hurt. If someone goes, oh my God, this is so disgusting, it has to be stopped, I'd be like, really? Where were you with Epstein? Where are you right now with all the injustices in the world right now? This is what you have a problem with. Oh, you are down the wrong road here.
Right, because it's like there's again, it's like these little puritweens that they call them online. Where it's like they're trying to like even say that, oh, if you read Lolita and you enjoyed Lolita the book, that that makes you you're that makes you a budding pedophile. And it's like no, one has nothing to do with the other. And it reminds me of when we did, I guess, like the first time I was on your debate show, The Devil's Advocate, and we were talking about the whole controversy of, oh, we shouldn't be drawing women a certain way. And the thing is like, in the end, it's like I don't understand why people make such a big deal about drawings. These are not real people. These aren't even real animals. It's like they're not real anything. It's just ink lines on paper, and they're people who are just like so crazed by it. But you ask them to do something for real people and it's all crickets.
We're gonna do more comments as soon as you're done.
Okay, yeah. And it's like, but it's like, it's like, oh, but you're drawing this stuff and this stuff is wrong. And it's like, well, who are you? It's like, I remember reading that there was a crisis there was a crisis organization that dealt with missing and exploited children. And they literally had to put out a press release telling people to stop reporting artists for doing questionable artwork, because artwork is not, it is not real children. And it was actually taking away resources for helping actual children in, actual exploited children.
First, go ahead, finish.
And it's like, and I thought that was like the craziest thing. I had no idea it had gotten that bad, that people are literally reporting artists for child porn when it's just art. You know, I mean,
I do want to get to the comments, but I will say this: if
right.
we want to stop that, then tell Victoria's Secrets, tell all the underwear ads, tell all the magazine ads. They have to stop using teenagers for their ads.
Oh yeah, that was the biggest problem with American Apparel, which is because it's like their creepster CEO enjoyed a little too much putting in like barely legal girls in really questionable advertising.
It's all over the place. It's not
Yeah.
the ultimate thing is that during puberty, a young woman begins to blossom in a way that is attractive, and a lot of women try to look like teenagers into their 40s.
Well, it's the whole youth fetishization of our culture.
Yeah, and a lot of the teenagers want to look a little bit more, and especially with steroids now, women are developing. This is just a fact. Women are developing earlier and earlier, but they're also aging a little bit more. So now some 16-year-olds look like 20-year-olds, especially when applied with makeup and applied in a certain way. So you get that where you get young girls having this. And again, I'll bring it up. Where was everyone with the outrage during it?
No, and really, and it's funny you brought up Victoria's Secret, because one of the reasons why they're really failing is because it seemed like the owners of Victoria's Secret had a direct relationship with Epstein, where they were like trading models with him. And mind you, and it's like in the whole, in the whole modeling industry, I mean, it's like I was working at a design company, and they had this display that they did for some clothing line, and it was supposed to be for adult clothing. But every time I passed that poster, I was like, this girl can't be more than 12. I mean, even with all the makeup and the adult clothing that she was wearing, it's like I could still see that it's like, this is not an adult in this photo. So it's like, that's where the problem is. That's the real, thing that needs to be that really needs to be analyzed and really I guess like gone after. It's like not ink drawings or I don't know, whatever shitty anime people are pissed off at right now. It's like
people get offended by signs. They all need to grow up. It really is. You all have far too much time in your hands to be upset over the dumb things you're being upset about.
Right. Yeah.
You're spending more time paying attention to your children. We'd all have a better experience on this planet. Let's do some comments. Joe D.
Good morning. Good morning. Good evening.
A.D. Calderon says, in superhero comics, there's always a long history of animal-like characters. Beast, Tigra, Beast Boy, Nightcrawler.
Right, yeah.
And, of course, Meredith chimes in with
and Thundercats, right? Yeah, and how many people say that that Chitara was their first crush?
Yep.
Really.
Joe D. McPhee comes back. Our furry fans were very particular in what they like in the genre.
Yes, they are. They're very particular. It's but like they're particular in a way as like one of like the questions I get on my comic is this animal in it? Like whatever their favorite animal is. And it's like, is this cat like I don't know, an anteater? Does it have anteaters in it? And I go, no. It's like, I don't want to read it then. It doesn't have anteaters in it. And it's like, wow, that's really like, how niche do you want your media?
Well, I've had the same thing where they want a male character to be submissive. So it's just, it literally is, again, back to what is your kink? Where do you
yeah.
And the perspective. This show is scheduled to be an hour with a 15-minute to a 30-minute after show where we'll stay around and ask questions and open up for people to go in. I will put the link in right now to invite people, but no one will be coming on the show until the 1 hour mark as an FYI. So you can line up to be in the thing if you want to talk about it. We're going to do the pair rules, so don't be a weirdo. Come in, ask a nice question, and we won't have a problem with you. If you say one thing I don't like, you're gone right away. Meredith says, I think you could have it at a table. Rob has a great delivery for the plethora of books, including Barbara. Anything can be handled the right way.
Yeah.
It's just about how you do it. I do a lot of shows, and I get promoters coming up to me and questioning things, and I challenge them. I will look across and go, how come that's okay right there? Not only is that copyrighted infringement,
Right.
where are you going? Wait, where are you going? I thought we were going to talk about this, and I get left alone right away. Sometimes, again, it's just the topic. Oh my God, fetish, you're going to ruin the children. No, I'm going to ruin the parents and make it better by having them be open-minded and no longer stuck in their ways. Because if more people were open-minded to sexuality, guess what? We probably wouldn't have all the problems. We still have some, but some of these problems just come from the pure fact that people can't talk to each other and understand each other. We need more of that. Jody McPhee goes on to say, Wonder Woman's 60 was mostly bondage art heavy. I don't know.
And lots of spankings, from what I remember.
I don't know if the 60s was. I know in the 40s and 50s. I think the 60s, because of the women's movement, wasn't that the period where she became like a fashion designer? Or that was the 70s. That might have been the 70s.
That might have been because I remember when Ms. Magazine like took Wonder Woman and made her like the official mascot of feminism.
Yeah.
While at the same time being anti everything the creator was into.
Yep.
So that.
Talk about picking and choosing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to celebrate this character for what it is. We're going to take it over and make it what we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be like taking Mickey Mouse and making him the slogan for a cigarette company.
Oh, well.
That's basically you're using it the wrong way. That's not what he was supposed to be for. And that's not what Wonder Woman was. Wonder Woman was supposed to break down the boundaries of what a woman's role can and shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as much as she was weakened to a man, she was also powerful against a man. Yeah. It was this beautiful give and take in a story that just over the head of kids today. Yeah. Like the Puritan kids. Sex is bad. You're doing it wrong, honey. I'm just
for real.
One day you're going to be 40 and let me tell you, there are no boys in that group.
And then it's like what the funniest thing about erotica, right? Because I was thinking about this. It's like, what makes something erotic? And the funny thing is like I've seen like plenty of like non-sexual things be erotic as hell. And then a lot of sexual stuff be like the most boring crap.
I always say it. A woman, I've dated a lot of women and fell on a lot of women based on their clothing choices. Because sometimes when it's these outfits and what you think the outfit represents, and it's this whole picture that when you just see like some of these artists who like, I'm going to show my character's boobs off. Hey, there was something excited about never seeing Jean Grey naked, so you could always think about how would she look. And it was like, oh my God, imagine if you were with Jean Grey, you'd finally get to see her naked. Now it's just like, look at my character. Oh my God.
Yeah. Right. Oh, but it's funny too. But it's like I just find it funny. It's like you're talking about Jean Grey, and again, like how many guys like that was their first crush, and it's like, but it's like, oh, but she's a person. It's like, no, she's a drawing. She doesn't exist. So it's like
it in here. She is good.
Right. Exactly. But it's like but these characters make people weird.
That are males. Oh my God, understand where fucking female nipples are supposed to be.
Right. Well, the drawing, if there's any offensive way to draw female anatomy is not knowing female anatomy.
I don't mind the big boobs. I don't mind the tiny.
Yeah.
I've seen all that in the fetish. But the nipples, like where people have like it down to here. Here's the outfit. No nipples. Yeah. Would she have surgery for nipple removal?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, Now,
J.D. Calderon brings up Fritz the Cats. You have to remember Fritz was deliberately meant to be offensive. There was an art to it. He wanted to shake things up. He wanted to do things with Fritz the Cat to almost cause that conversation and rock the world. It was like the shock jock of comic books.
That's a good descriptor of Crumb.
Yeah. Joe D. McPhee goes on to say, show a 3-year-old
Wicked City. Right. Yeah.
People's lack of knowledge gets them in trouble.
Yeah.
Totally true. Those are the people who haven't lived life yet. Yeah, I do agree with that. Because the more you get seasoned with life, the more you start to realize some of the stuff. Again, we can have teenage girls paraded around in these beauty pageants. We can award them for. Yeah. We're making them an object and a trophy And the problem is furry art.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or even your fetish book, it's like
that you calling the plumber and saying, hey, for some reason there's a the sprinklers outside are making my front door wet, and the guy opens the door and there's just water all over the place because your kitchen sink's broken. Why are you complaining about the sprinkler outside, woman, when your kitchen springs?
Right. Yeah. It's like they're focusing on the wrong thing.
They're focusing on what they think they can get away with.
Right. No, that's the important thing, because it's like, especially nowadays online, it's all about who's the easy target. And I'm reading Meredith's comment. Yeah, I know it doesn't make any sense. No, but the thing is, though, is like, yeah, it's like it's more about. It's less about being offensive and offended, and more about who's an easy target who I could take down and get my precious serotonin hit from. I mean, it's like, and that's, yeah, and it's like, and that's like affecting a lot of parts of media and fandom is that attitude.
We all want it. We just don't want to talk about it publicly. I can't tell you how many times someone comes to my table and their friends will be making a giggly thing, and I can identify the guy in the group or girl who's actually into it. And one girl came out, and actually, Varian had a similar story, and I won't tell his, but there was a girl who came out to her friends about being bisexual in front of my table by just being interested in the cover, and they looked at her like, "Oh, you're into women?" And she was like, "Well, yeah, kind of." And it's that powerful moment where, like, there are some people who just don't give a shit. I've never given a shit. When I could talk about bondage, I was into it when I was a teenager, and I know people are like, "Oh, yes, how could you be? What happened to you?" No, when I got into puberty, there was this idea of these tied up girls, and there was something happening, and there was a connection made that, for some reason things got. I'll put it this way for the listening audience: my pants suddenly shrunk like the Incredible Hulk. There were tightness that wasn't there before. You get what I'm saying? So Meredith says, "LOL, you're so right. Sex is disgusting. Save it for someone you love." Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, exactly.
Tori Hills says to us, "Yo, Advocate, can I chime in, fam? I got a few things to say about the topic." Absolutely.
Bring him in.
There's a link in the chat room. Feel free, man. Come on in. If not, tell her to be proud and do her shit, fam. Fuck what they are talking about. Stay focused, queen, and do your thing. Listen, I would take that even though it said queen for my stuff too, Tori. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And you got Victoria's Secret shit on the head, though. On the head, bro. No, man. Victoria's Secret's tame from the neighborhoods I go to hang out in.
Yeah. Like, no, I mean, what's funny is that it was through furry that I actually was exposed to, like rubber fetish and leather fetish. Armor fetish was a new one for me. Because it's like I had a particular commissioner who would always ask for that type of stuff, and I had no idea what it was. So I tried, do what any artist does. I went looking for research, and I found Marquee magazine, and I was just so completely fascinated by the entire subculture, because it was just like it was like the complete opposite of what I was used to. When you look at Playboys and Hustler and whatnot, this was like the complete opposite. It was like the more you were covered, like the hornier the pictures were, as opposed to the opposite. I mean, it was just like, so I started incorporating that more into my artwork, because I was just like, I mean, aesthetically, that was just like, I was just so, I guess, like enamored by the idea of like, about being covered, but being erotic at the same time.
Meredith, that's the last word right now in our regularly scheduled show. This is such an important conversation. I applaud you for having.
Oh, thank you.
And tell them where they can find you, and then we'll hang out for a few minutes. See if anyone.
Sure. Well, again, you can find my more mainstream comic book work at talltalesonline.com. So it's like, but if you're like more into the erotic stuff, my Kickstarter right now is really the only place you can find it, because trying to sell this stuff online is a little bit tricky. So that's like a whole other issue that I have with doing erotic art, where it's like a lot of websites do make it difficult to sell this. It's like I said, Patreon banned me for a couple of weeks because one of the, mind you, this was an account that was already marked as an adult account, which means that you couldn't search for it. You had to have a direct link to find it. But it's like, oh, you have your stuff is too sexy, like it's not covered enough. So it's like, okay, fine. So I changed I changed the artwork, and then it's like they still wouldn't unban me until I removed a particular piece, because like, oh, there's too much butt cheek in this picture. And mind you, this picture was no different than what you would see in like a Victoria's Secret catalog or a Sports Illustrated catalog. But I don't know, this person had like a bug, and it's like, oh no, you have to take this picture down. It has too much butt cheek.
And how can they find you on social media?
Oh, at Daphne Lage Art at my that's for my YouTube channel. And if you go to talltalesonline.com, all my other social media is there too. My Twitter, my Facebook account. My name varies slightly, so in the account names. So it's just easier to send them to Tall Tales Online, and all the links are there.
All right, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with the after show, but we're going to roll the ending credits for this. And we'll play a little bit of music and play our warning again, and we'll be right back on the other side of it.
Cool. Thank you.
And that videos have been acting funny today. We'll get it to it. Hold on. Let's try that one more. And time. Warning and disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this live feed are those of the guests, speakers, and/or hosts, and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs, official policies, ethics, or positions of the content providers, advertisers, additional hosts, and/or guests, hosting sites, groups, or entities attached to this programming. Viewer discretion is advised. All right, and we're joined by Joe. How you doing this evening?
Hey, how's it going? I just dropping
good.
in because I do have one story to tell that goes directly to the topic about how parents are not educated enough about what's going on in this industry. And it deals with when I was doing anime cosplay. I actually stopped doing anime conventions as a whole because of one show that I did up in Wisconsin. And one of the things that happened is that in the actual convention itself, they were attached to, it's like this, the convention area, and then right next to it is like the pool area that where everybody could, swim and do whatever. There was a bunch of people that actually did a beauty pageant for cosplay, and they had 12 and 13-year-olds in bathing suits, and they was filming it. Me being a vendor there, I'm up here like, I'm uncomfortable with this, because if it's directly attached to the show can get into trouble. But the thing about it is, whoever was running it didn't feel that there was nothing wrong, because the kids and stuff were there and they was okay with it. They were cosplaying and whatnot. But I could see if one adult came around there and saw that, it was going to be heck to pay. But the thing about it is, because there was no parents, the parents would drop these kids, the 13, 14-year-olds off and have, no idea what goes on in these shows. They're, not, none the wiser as far as, what their child is actually engaging in and what they're doing and everything. So when I saw this happen, I let the people who I brought in to work my booth know what was going on. And it's like, nah, that can't be happening. It's like you see people in costumes and everything like that. It's like 5 minutes later, a couple of the 13-year-olds walked around in bathing suits and their jaws just dropped like, you were telling the truth. Somebody needs to say something about that. It's like, at this point, I just won't do the show ever again, because if there's not going to be supervision for that young of an age, from at least from their parents' point of view, I can't really do nothing. I can't really say nothing. I would be in trouble either way if I, stood up and said, no, this is wrong, or let it be.
Yeah,
My whole thing is just to dissociate from it altogether. And trust me, it was a very good show to be a part of. I was a part of that show from the grassroots when it first started 2 years prior to that. I'm not going to name the show because that show is still happening. I believe it's still happening, and it's a college-related show. But it's still one of those things that you have to be mindful as a parent to be engaged with their kids with what they like.
Right, yeah, because it's like culture. Anime conventions are funny that way, because it's like, I remember there was before New York Comic Con, there was, well, they were still building New York Comic Con, but Reed Pop was trying to build an anime show.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the anime show several times, but it's like, really, it's like the fact that there was a cartoon that came out called Kill la Kill. And this was supposed, right? Yeah. So this is supposed to be a cartoon that's supposed to be a satire of the sexy, skimpy outfits and whatnot. But like any satire, it like sometimes sometimes satire is too good that you can't tell whether it's seriously talking about something or not, whether it's satirizing the thing. And I swear to God, watching 15-year-olds dress up as those characters from Kill la Kill, and mind you, if anybody in the listening audience is you're curious about this show, just do a Google search, and I saw 15-year-olds dressing up like this, and it was just like, holy crap! It's like, are we going to get raided by the FBI? I mean, it's like I felt like I was going to go to prison just being at this convention, just being a vendor at this convention. And it's like, how did your parents not know you were building this costume? I mean, it was just, yeah. But it's like, but we're talking about.
Daphne, come on, you were a teenage girl. You know what it is. You wear the baggy shirt off to school. You have the baggy jeans, and underneath it is the real outfit.
Well, I went to a Catholic school, so I mean, I didn't do this, but plenty of the other girls did too. They would roll up their shorts. So they were.
That's trying to get me in trouble, because
but it's like, but the thing is,
no fooling him.
But the thing is, though, it's like, this is where, like, so you have us who are really conscientious about the work that we're doing, but we're the ones that get tag teamed on. Mm-hmm. When you have when you have a convention where it's like, you really need to do something, I think, about the type of costumes that are coming in, your show.
Well, how many of you have seen the Harley Quinn little girl running around wearing the Harley Quinn outfit?
That's a whole, that's I wouldn't want to say it's a peeve, but like, I don't understand how, like, DC's trying to have it both ways. They make this character who's a psychopath, right? And but then at the same time, they want to do some kind of like girl power thing with her and market her to little kids. Hey, Meredith. And it's like, again, it's like, but my furry art's the issue.
Because no one wants to talk about that, because everyone likes it. It's always down to what's popular. Like, if my book, Barbara Unleashed, becomes popular, then everyone will bow to it. Oh, this has been the best thing. Now it's a movie. Everyone's going to kiss its ass. It's going to be a big deal. Right. It's all about popularity. If you can get I mean, look at homosexuality. Homosexuality became popular and people embraced it. And it was put in places. When we start to let something become popular, we're willing to embrace it. And it changes our minds, the way we think.
Well,
and we
I don't think homosexuality became popular as the idea of just letting people be homosexual became popular.
Well, no, even
Yeah.
people got to come out and actually
Right.
be out. So that was
Right.
the movement. So it became popular to embrace the idea. Like,
Right. Yeah, that's the part. Yeah. I mean, no, I'm just being pedantic.
no. Sure people understand my comment is
Yeah.
that we embraced it. It became something that TV could show.
Right.
We could talk about it for the first time in decades. Because I remember a time ago where everyone was anti-gay marriage, anti-this. So it shows how quickly we can grow when we push back and say, hey, how does this hurt you? And I've been the person who's held up signs and then put up another sign that said, show me where my sign hurt you. Because I'm trying to get people to realize the things that they're upset about are so minuscule that really you're doing well in life if that's what's bothering you. If that's your big problem, the sign I held up today, then you have a great life. Can we trade? Can we trade?
I mean, because the thing is, though, it's like at the very end of my furry convention tour, I guess, or whatever, there was this movement to kind of like separate, like if you were selling adult stuff, they wanted to create, they had started like separating, you had a separate dealer's room for that. So it's like, and considering that most people at these conventions were adults anyway, it didn't feel like that I was like losing out on anything by not being in the main dealer's room. But in this separate room, you could have your stuff. You would be more comfortable with having your more adult material out because they would check IDs at the door and they wouldn't allow kids in. So people were just able to relax, and actually sometimes I think that's like, what, maybe there should be like an adults only convention, where it's like we could just,
because I actually go to
the funny thing is like I'm not talking about porno conventions.
No, I go to a fetish con, which is not a porno connection. Doesn't mean there's not pornography.
Well, right, yeah, exactly.
But I will say this: I don't like the idea of those rooms because then it tells me as a creator I have to choose between being a kids creator or someone who writes adult. I think I should be able to do both. I don't like those lines, and I've learned, and Meredith has seen it. I know how to sell both at my table without mixing the worlds. I know how to shoo the kids away from what they're not supposed to look at. Right. And I've had parents flip open a page and show it to their kid, and I'm like, you're doing it to your kid, but it's just a butt. How, like, are you going to, oh my God, look how scandalous that is. I'm like, do you go to the beach? Does your mom?
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like, geez, man, don't teach your kid to hate their body. Don't teach a kid that the body is something to be ashamed of. Because that's what we do a lot of times. Like, oh, we can't. No. But then again, looking down, your kid's dressed as Harley. Great parenting. And the from Suicide Squad. What could go wrong with your kid? Series 16 and pregnant on MTV.
I swear a lot of people hate the mirror that we create as creators with our characters. Because I have, especially from women, I had women look at a lot of my characters. And what's weird is that I have a lot of female artists that do a lot of my books. So it's like, when women come up there, it's like, why her boobs have to be so big and this, that, and the other? And the artist would look at her as like, well, you have the same features. Why is this a problem?
Right.
And they would just run away like, they have a problem with themselves more so
like
than what being presented to them.
What I would get, what I would see more, not that I personally got this, but it's more like you see women that don't have my features complaining about my features, complaining that, oh, it's like, big boobs, big butt. It's like, it's automatically vulgar. And it's like, honey, that's how I look. You're telling me that I'm vulgar just for existing. I mean, how is this supposed to help us? I mean, it's also, it's like, I think another issue is that it seems that art can do everything but make you horny. And there is such a denial about that. So it's like, because it's like, look, it's like the only thing that that makes me embarrassed about my furry art, about my furry porn, or is whether I'm speaking to the right audience. Because I know, like, on the morning shows, it's really awkward to push the Kickstarter because it's like it's 9 in the morning. So I really want to be pushing furry porn at 9 in the morning. But on an
It's not 9 in the morning in UK.
right, yeah, exactly. But at least now it's like I feel more. It's like, okay, it's like, it's late night. So everybody should be in bed anyway. So it's like so that's kind of like the thing where it's like, oh, art can do everything except that.
I don't know. To me, I mean, I still have a fetish at 9 in the morning. I've been asked about my character, Barbara. Why does your character look the way she is? She's got big boobs and all that. And the honest answer is that I wanted her to be a knockout on purpose to show something that can happen. She's this really strong, confident woman, and even she can get in trouble. And that was kind of the point. But also, when I get girls, like, especially like you said, sometimes you see a certain type go, well, that doesn't represent women right. And I've dated girls who look like Barbara, not necessarily the blonde hair and the blue eyes, but body type. And I'm like, no, that I've dated women like that. So I've sarcastically come up. I blame the milk industry. They've put steroids in milk.
All those hormones. No, for real. There's a reason. I remember reading an article saying that it's like it's milk. It's the milk.
Bring down the cows. The cows have to go. Chick-fil-A is right. And then you're a whole different can of worms. You eat a Chick-fil-A?
Yeah. It's like, look, it's like I compromise my morals a billion times a year because I have to buy something on Amazon. People need to learn to calm down.
Like, I buy it from Walmart, and my sister gets abused by them, and I'm like, get another job, kid. What can I tell you? I'm getting this because it's cheaper. They're killing smaller industries. You mean the same people who are charging me $55 for a hammer that's now $5? They're hurting those people. Gotcha. Okay, don't worry. I'm going to spend $5 for my hammer.
Right.
We are running down to the end of our time, so Joe, tell them where they can find you.
Oh, okay. You can find all of our comic books at CGCstudios.com. I do have a Kickstarter upcoming here on September 18th for our 10th anniversary #1 edition of Amazonia #1. You can catch me on Instagram at Silbolt. That's SILV as in Victor, BOLT. And you can catch me out there on Facebook at Joe D. McPhee.
And you're going to have to come back on to promote that Kickstarter, definitely.
Okay, Meredith, not a problem.
Meredith, you've talked too much during this entire
couldn't get a word in edgewise.
No, Meredith, enough. Just tell them where they can find you and stop talking already.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, Meredith Lochran, if you go to meredithlochran.com, you're actually going to see a link to an erotica that I wrote. A lot of people don't realize that I wrote one. It's a couple years old and it needs some editing. So, but hey, if you want it for free, I have a coupon code that I can send you.
Ooh, coupon lady. And where can they find you on social media? Come on.
You can find me at MERJ99, MEREJ99, or you can do a Google search for my name, and you're just going to find me all over the place.
Whoa. All over the place. Product porn.
All over the place.
I'll raise that with a Daphne and her art. Go for it.
Well, okay, you can find all my comics at talltalesonline.com. All my social media is linked there. So you go to talltalesonline.com and you can find my Facebook, my Twitter, my YouTube channel where I have art demos. And everything's there. Everything's there except for the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is a separate link.
But remember, we're on the radio, so tell them how to the wording, how to get.
Oh yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting that. So it's Tall Tales, TALL Tales, TAILS online.com.
All right, and I thank everyone for being part of it. I thank Joe for hopping in here, making this a great after show. Thank you for all the comments. If you guys want to see this show continue, make some noise. Let people know you enjoyed this, because these are pilot shows that we're trying to figure out. I would like to do this once a month. I would like to bring in underground creators, talk about some of the things they're doing. I want to have places where creators that we've had on the show today feel comfortable, including myself, because I know how it is. Yeah. You go on these shows and you know how to talk about it like an adult. You can have this great motivating conversation, but you're afraid of hosts who are gonna try to be like, oh, so what else do you do to the character in the book? Do you like paint or colors for fun? And you're like, what are you even talking about? Are you talking about hot wax? Are you talking about like latex body paint? And their just mind is blown because they were trying to tell a joke and you're really there to promote something. So that's what we want this show to be, an adult conversation. We don't have enough of those anymore. And Indie Vault wants to bring you programming that is an adult conversation where we can really sit down, have these wonderful conversations. No one's preaching at you. We're just telling you our experiences. So if you like what you see, please write in. Tell us to keep doing this more. I have been your host, the Comics Advocate, the Indie Devil, Mr. Anderson. You can check out my fetish monsters and more at writtensinscomics.com or see what the devil's up to at mranderson.com. That's it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Join us tomorrow for the Devil's Advocate at 9 p.m. right here on Indie Vault. And thank you. And make sure you back that Kickstarter. Everyone should back it and get some erotic porn for furry porn for the wall.
Yes, because it's like the money the furry porn brings in also helps support my comic book work.
And put it in the guest's bathroom. You want to put it in the guest's bathroom so you can judge your guests right away. When they ask where the bathroom is, you point out the bathroom and you just wait there patiently. What will happen when they walk out of the shitter? How will they look? And you now know your friend better than you ever thought you did. Right here. Thanks for hanging out tonight. This has been a production of IndieVault.com. Make sure to subscribe to the Indie Vault Radio YouTube channel.